From the Oklahoman newsroom, this is an OSU update. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Scott Wright. Scott, we're talking softball today. The Cowgirls found out over the weekend that they're headed to the Fayetteville Regional of the NCAA tournament as the #2 seed there. Disappointment at the Big 12 tournament. Is this about, considering that and the regular season, is this about where the Cowgirls expected to be?
Yeah, this is kind of the range that that they thought they would probably fall into. You know, obviously the season kind of took a downward turn toward the end. You had the Bedlam sweep, and then their frustrations at the Big 12 tournament. Really a good opportunity to sort of refocus and get re-energized for the postseason right now, and a really good opponent to do that in Wichita State, who beat them twice during the regular season.
Well, Arkansas is the top seed in this regional, the #13 overall seed in the tournament, so kind of gives you an idea of where the rest of these teams fall. But you mentioned an opener against Wichita State. Cowgirls need to get started on a good foot, and that was frankly a problem in the Big 12 tournament. When you don't come out with that first win, it can be a really difficult task.
Yeah, absolutely. They got off to a really rough start at the Big 12 tournament against Baylor. You know, things got a little bit crazy in the first inning anyway, with Samantha Clakeley having a diabetic issue, having to leave the game before she ever threw a pitch, and so they had a pitching change, had some weird calls that went against them, and an error in the first inning, and some things like that, and it went south really quickly. It was tough for them to regain their footing in that game, but they feel like on Saturday they played solid in the fifth place game, got themselves a little bit of momentum now going into the postseason, and that's something that they really need, because they cannot afford to fall into the losers bracket out there with some really solid teams. DePaul being also in this regional, a really solid team that's just reliably good all the time.
You mentioned Wichita State in games against Oklahoma State earlier this year, a 5-3 loss in Stillwater, a 9-6 loss in Wichita. Sounds like an offensive-minded team in Wichita. Is pitching going to be vital? It usually is when it comes to softball, but is it going to be particularly important in this matchup?
It absolutely is, and it all comes down to the decision for Kenny Gajewski and who he goes with. They've got three really good pitchers. They don't necessarily have an ace. They've got all three of them have an ERA below 3 and are really solid and can go out there and throw some good games. So it'll be a decision of matchups in that game. What Gajewski feels he can do to maybe offset what Wichita State can do with the bats, and then Oklahoma State getting the offense going. They did that on Saturday at the Big 12 championship. That was really important to getting them going and being able to come out of there with a win in that fifth place game. So you know, Vanessa Shippey, Maddie Sue Montgomery, both swinging the bat really well. They need to keep that going, especially early.
That game against Wichita State, 1:30 on Friday. Regional will be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll know more about who they play when as things continue. But if you look a little bit down the road, Scott, if the Cowgirls survive this Fayetteville Regional, there's a potential Bedlam Super Regional. Was that any surprise to the folks at OSU?
I've got to imagine that it was a little bit, because I think they were probably a little bit surprised to get paired with Wichita State, a team that they had played twice during the regular season, to see them right out of the gate in the NCAA tournament. But then to know that Bedlam is a possibility out there in the Super Regional. You know, Bedlam was what sort of was sort of the left turn in this whole season. They've been running along through Big 12 play really well, and that Bedlam series is a really big deal, especially with these seniors that have been wanting to get over the hump against Oklahoma for so long now, and to get swept out again was a really frustrating moment, and has led to some of their struggles lately, I think. And so knowing that that's out there and that opportunity could be lingering, I think is probably a good thing for Oklahoma State to get refocused and focus on what they've got to do in Arkansas this week.
Obviously, it starts with Wichita State again, 1:30 on Friday. That game right now scheduled to appear on ESPNU. As we know, weather and all sorts of things with the softball can change that. But that's right now, so be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.